Welcome back to Movies TV Mad and Sunday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Right, so yesterday I had the privilege to have my second helping of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and I must admit I had a much better time than my first time because we had technical difficulties. I went all the way to Strovolos because I live in Ayia Napa, but I went all the way to the Cineplex cinema in the Cyprus Mall in Strovolos, Nicosia. I went and sat in a screen all on my own. This was at 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon. We have some very strong and strict COVID rules over here, and so clearly people aren't coming up to the movie theatre, which is a shame. And we're going to talk about the box office very, very shortly. But I enjoyed the movie, and I'm going to have a spoiler discussion with you after our box office discussion. So let's start that. So yesterday it was announced that James Gunn's The Suicide Squad will have just over a 25 million domestic weekend. What's interesting enough, we haven't been given any global projections at this moment, so we don't know. But it's looking like around a paltry 50 million global. Which is not great. I mean, the original projection was about 70 million global worldwide. I don't think it's going to get to that. So everyone has an opinion about the box office, and I was so tired of reading Twitter, everyone's agendas, and I mean the movie pundits just don't help matters either. Oh my God, what's going to happen to the DCEU now? Warner Brothers haven't got many movies to release. They've only got 10 HBO Max originals. What's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. Listen. You can have whatever take on this you want. I don't want to sit here going on about COVID and trying to guess why people haven't come out and why as many people didn't come out to support this movie as they did Black Widow in its opening weekend. What's happened? It's the reverse of Black Widow. Black Widow had a strong opening, but then everyone stayed indoors for the second week. This is what happened with Black Widow. MCU stans decided to come out, right, support the movie on its opening weekend and week, but what they also did was buy it on Premier Access, so after they saw it, they can watch it because they can keep it. They can keep it. They pay for Premier Access and they keep it. That's why they didn't come out. Now, what audiences have clearly done with The Suicide Squad is, I mean, a lot of people have still come out. 25 million is still a fair amount of people. It's not a great amount of people. So 25 million worth have come out, but also people have got HBO Max and have decided not to come out. And there's many reasons for that. So that's what we're looking at. So it's kind of been halved. So what happens is if you lose the HBO Max availability, more people would have come out, of course, and it would have made a lot more money. But I don't want to sit here making excuses. I want to remind you all that Warner Brothers paid their talent $200 million all in all. Every member of their talent teams, over $200 million so they could do this day and date. Now, they're not a fucking charity. Why do you think they were willing to pay all that money? Because they were going to triple that outlay. That's why. So the point being, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad being on HBO Max has made HBO Max and Warner Brothers a hell of a lot of money. Now I've seen pundits say, well boy, I hope the HBO Max has garnered subscribers from this. You hope? You don't know. You're a journalist and you don't know. We all know that the day and date has garnered and inspired many subscribers for HBO Max, but it's not just about subscribers, it's about sponsorships and other things that they do with these streaming platforms. So of course it's making a lot of money. Don't you worry about that. Warner Brothers will get their money back for The Suicide Squad and they'll double it, and they may even triple it thanks to streaming. They can literally burn that 25 million and still have a party and celebrate what they've made on HBO Max, but many people, aka movie Twitter, don't want to see this. So there's people screaming it's a flop, it's a disaster, look at the other DCEU movies, look at the other Suicide Squad, it made nearly 800 million. Yes, that's true. Right, you've got to understand, listen, the same people without an agenda understand. On a normal weekend, this would be a disaster. Of course it would be. Warner Brothers spent like $100 million on this movie. They built sets, the hugest sets that anyone's ever built. You know, they let James Gunn do whatever he wanted. But I want you to think about this. Do you think for 1 minute that Warner Brothers thought they were going to make $1 billion or they were going to get a 200 million opening weekend? Of course not. But knowing what they were going to make, I think Warner Brothers knew they were going to make around the 20 to 25 million mark for the opening domestic weekend. But still, they spent $150 million on this man's film. They gave him a sequel in Peacemaker, which the post-credit scene sets up. That tells you that Warner Brothers were very happy with the subscribers James was bringing in for his movie. The name's James Gunn has brought in those subscribers as well as that 25 million opening weekend. Add that together, it's a lot of green. But these haters, these Snyder acolytes, these pundits, all with agendas, right, want to tell you this is a disaster. This is not a disaster. Do you remember when we had that terrible second week for Black Widow? I didn't hear many people talking. Apart from blaming, guess what? Disney Plus Premier Access. When it suited them to make excuses, it was fine. When it doesn't suit them, this is a disaster. This film should be making more money. Why haven't people come out? We know the environment we're in at the moment. We know it's different. We know it's available on HBO Max. Listen, I don't want to mention COVID. I don't want to sit here making excuses. I just want to explain to you, if you're logical, you understand that we're not in a normal environment right now, and it's totally understandable why this box office has happened. Now, I know the projection was just over 30 million. I was hoping for about 44 to 50 million. I was dreaming. We were all dreaming, right? Now, you have to add other scenarios to this. Yeah? The Snyderverse boycott. There's a considerable amount of people who are boycotting this. And we must take into account the historical tweets that were exposed about James Gunn. There will be people out there who boycotted that film. But ultimately, we are in a different time right now. And you can't just count the box office. You do have to look at HBO Max. Ignoring HBO Max through your agenda is gonna, listen, right, I've said this to all of you people before, but I'm going to explain it in layman's terms. Now, when we get movie math from Grace Randolph on Monday, she's going to tell you what a disaster this is, how it's the end of the DCEU, how the DCEU keeps on coming out with flop after flop after flop, which of course isn't true. Man of Steel made money. Not the money they wanted, but it made money. BVS made just under $1 billion. Should have made $2 billion, no question. The Suicide Squad financially was a great hit. Or Suicide Squad 2016. Wonder Woman made just under 800 million again. A great success for that film. I actually think a Wonder Woman movie should be clearing $1 billion with no struggle. Justice League was a disaster, we know that, but Zack Snyder's Justice League is the most successful streaming event of all time. I've seen the figures, I've seen the numbers, they're fantastic. Whatever they tell you, no streaming event has made more money than Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. And I'm sure that Zaslav and Discovery will be looking at that when they come in, because blatantly they want to make money. Anyway, Aquaman, the most successful straight-to-theatre cinema-released DCEU movie, right? I think Joker made slightly more than Aquaman, by the way. But Aquaman is still the champion. James Wan is still the most successful DCEU director on one film. So that's fantastic. Shazam made 3 times its money. Yeah, it didn't make a great deal of money, but it made money. It brought in what they knew it was going to bring in. Wonder Woman 84 again was during the heights of COVID. It did really well on Blu-ray, 4K and HBO Max, and people did go out to see it. But it didn't make a great deal of money in movie theatres, but things were really bad when that film was released anyway. But it did what they thought it was going to make. You can't cloud things in your own agendas. I have issues with Wonder Woman 84. I have issues with Birds of Prey. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you those films are flops because it suits my agenda. But this is the problem with the Snyderverse acolytes. This is what they will tell you. There's one account going on and on about this film being a flop. You can call it a flop, but it's not. Because I have access to figures that you don't. I know the HBO Max figures. I know the HBO Max figures, and I've added them with this 26 million opening weekend, and it's very, very healthy. It's not record breaking, but it's good. It works, right? Again, I want you to remember, Warner Brothers knew exactly what they were going to make from this movie. They let him spend $150 million on everything in his movie, and they've given him a sequel as well. I repeat that. Does this seem like a company who gives a shit about the opening weekend box office? No, I have receipts, people, right? I have receipts. So the box office is what you call solid and not disastrous. If you don't want to take COVID into account, don't. If you don't want to take HBO Max into account, don't. But you're lying to yourselves and your followers. You are being inaccurate with the truth. You are being economical with the truth. I don't care if you're a pundit or a fan or a Snyder acolyte. I couldn't give a shit. I'm here to tell people my opinion and the fucking truth. My opinion based on the truth. The truth is, this movie is hugely successful. This is one of the best comic book movies ever made. Fact. I sat in the movie theatre yesterday. I'm a man who writes, directs, acts on a small level. I've explained to you I'm developing the first English-speaking dramas on Cypriot TV. You know I write and direct and star in my own plays and pantomimes at Christmas. So I'm not a big deal, I'm just telling you what I do. Also, I have to look after my disabled dad. So, so being here with my dad most of the time, everything's stressful, money and looking after him and feeding him. So sitting in that cinema yesterday on my own was fucking beautiful. I was laughing out loud, not worrying who could hear me. It was amazing. I cried. Ratcatcher 2 is the perfect example of a female character in film. This is the type of woman I want to see. This is the type of woman I want my nieces to look up to. I don't want them looking up to Harley fucking Quinn, a fucking psychotic killer. I want them looking up to a compassionate woman with an open heart and an open soul who makes friends with a shark who was eating people. And she tried to inspire him not to do that. She said, if we're friends, you won't kill us, will you? What a brilliant fucking moment. We'll get into the film. Yes, I did tell you this was going to be a spoiler chat, so it's your fucking problem if you're still here. But back to the box office. It's a good box office, right? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you 25 million is the greatest thing ever. It was never going to be that. And the studio know this. They'll say they're a little bit disappointed that it's gone under their projections of 30 million, but ultimately it doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you something else now. Now, I don't know if you already know this because I've said this to you before as well. My ears, I've got people's mouths in my ears, the right people, right? I know what's going on. Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and a brilliant film like James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. They're just fillers, everyone. They're just fillers for the main event of this multiverse strategy. They are rebooting this universe. So whatever happens with these films is kind of irrelevant. Even though they're good, solid movies, right? It's irrelevant what they took, what they didn't take. They are placeholders. Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman 84, and even James Gunn's The Suicide Squad are fucking placeholders. That's it. They're filler episodes of your favourite TV franchise or series. That's it. It's all very irrelevant. Now, next year things will start. The market cinematically will fix itself. We have got the Batman. We have got Black Adam. We have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And the main event, of course, is the Flash movie. These are the movies that have to hit $1 billion. These are the movies that will have to be fixed. And I believe by next year, cinema-going audiences will be a lot more consistent. And we can judge it then. And there's no question, Matt Reeves, the Batman, will not be on HBO Max because he made sure that was happening. That's why it was delayed to next year. He didn't want to be part of the day and date. And Warner Brothers, again, were very, very fair and said, okay then, because Matt Reeves is very, very important to their plan. They've given him a whole Earth 2 to develop, right? Think about that for a minute. So, in finishing this discussion about the box office, basically, the box office isn't disastrous. And when you put it together with HBO Max, It's very good for Warner Brothers, thank you very much. But we all like going on Twitter, whether we like it or not. I was on there for hours last night after I got back from watching the film for a second time. And there's a lot of people with agendas, there's lots of people who want to ignore COVID and HBO Max, and as I said, that's entirely up to you. But the studio don't give a shit what you say. A movie's not a flop because you say a movie's a flop. The DCEU isn't in trouble just because you say the DCEU is in trouble. Oh no, it's a great time to be a DC fan, and for you people like me who enjoyed the Suicide Squad, all you need to know is these characters will get spin-offs on HBO Max, and you will see more of these characters, and you will see more of James Gunn's DCEU vision. And to James Gunn I say this, you made a fantastic movie, my friend. Don't worry about box office, go off and make your Guardians 3 movie, forget about a Ravagers spin-off, come back to us, have a safe journey. You know, there's a lot of great DC fans that have got your back. Ignore the haters, we will protect you. Just come back to us permanently because you are a great storyteller, a great director, a great man, and we really love you. So all the agendas and the propagandas will go on and on. My advice to everyone is just ignore it, because James Gunn's The Suicide Squad has been successful and is a great movie, and it's as simple as that. So let's have a spoiler discussion about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. So this film opens up in a great way, and what I like is, remember this is a spoiler discussion, it's all done, it's all seen from the eyes of Savant's point of view. So I think it's really funny how Gunn makes him look like this tough, uncompromising guy. He's throwing the ball and he kills the bird. James Gunn certainly has got something against birds, right? But anyway, so he kills the bird and you think, this is a mean motherfucker. Anyway, it's all seen from his point of view. He goes on the plane, he meets the whole team, or one of the teams. We knew there'd be two teams, didn't we? A lot of people theorised this. Anyway, he goes out there, the shit gets real. Blackguard, you know, I was talking about Blackguard the other day. He betrays the team, hilariously, he gets killed on sight. And then all of a sudden this tough guy Savant starts fucking running away. He's shitting himself, we see him for the coward he is. I thought that was great what James Gunn did there, I love him for that. Michael Rooker did a great job, and it was great he gave his friend Michael Rooker this great opening moment, and it was so good. Now there's a couple of nitpicks before we go on to the more positive. Right, pretty much David Ayer's Suicide Squad characters were sidelined, weren't they? I mean, Boomerang, I mean, Jai Courtney must have got out of bed, done his stint and thought, was this worth even getting up out of bed for? Listen, I'm not, as I say, these are nitpicks. I think Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang was one of the great performances and characters of the first Suicide Squad. I like the first film. I'm not one of these people who's going to talk about James's movie and say the first movie was shit. I love both movies. And we don't live in that environment where you can love both. Oh, this one is so much better than that trash fire. Piss off. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not happy about it. Captain Boomerang was wiped out early, and Harley's like, Boomy, because that's her pet name for him. So I was disappointed. So he was sidelined, and I was upset about that. Harley, listen, I made a very serious point weeks ago. James Gunn has been boasting that he could kill anyone he wanted. James, if you could have killed anyone you wanted, surely you would have killed Harley, because the stakes are so much higher with her, because she's one of the most beloved characters in DC lore, and in the comic books and in animation. But you didn't kill her because you weren't allowed to kill her. And for me, that's disappointing, because when someone says to me, I can kill anyone, then you should be able to kill Harley Quinn. But you did kill Rick Flag, didn't you? Now, unlike Boomy, Captain Boomerang, Rick Flag and Joel Kinnaman had lots of screen time, and I think he was so well written by James Gunn, and I really enjoyed his whole arc. And I even like how his death was good. It was a hero's death. Once he finds out what the Thinker and the American government have been doing here, you know, experimenting on children and things like that, Rick Flag is disgusted and he wants to expose this. But unbeknownst to him, Waller has given Peacemaker a counter mission to make sure that this information never gets out. That's the whole point of this mission, to destroy any connections with these experiments and America. So there's this big fight between Peacemaker and Rick Flag, and it's fucking brilliant. 1 minute Rick's got the advantage, then Peacemaker's got the advantage. I like the fact that Peacemaker doesn't really want to do this to Rick, but he follows orders. This is the kind of character that he is. If you tell him to do something, he does it. That gag about eating all the dicks on the island, right? That's basic. What he's saying is, if my superiors tell me to fucking do something, right, for the flag, I'll fucking do it, and I don't care who you are. I will wipe you out. So I like that element of the character. I really like the character, and I can't wait to get to know him in the Peacemaker series. I think it's a fine performance by John Cena, who isn't the finest of actors, but I think James Gunn got a great performance from him. So yeah, it was a hero's death, but he could still be alive. I'm not sure, but some people are saying because he gets kind of stabbed in the heart, right? And you can see the inside of the heart. Was it still beating? I can't remember. I already can't remember. Was it beating at the end? I'm not sure. But Rick Flag could be back basically because of the multiverse strategy. We could see another version from another Earth. So all is not lost. We can see any of these people who died. Again, now in the opening of the film, Weasel died as well. But in the post-credits scene, we saw that he's still alive, and James Gunn even hinting that he might have been in prison for a crime or crimes he didn't commit. Rick Flag telling us at the beginning of the film that he's guilty of killing a bunch of children, but James Gunn says that might not be the case. Maybe we'll see him again in Peacemaker. Then we've got this whole sequence of El Presidente and Harley Quinn. Now this is a very interesting moment, because I do actually think Harley was sidelined in this film. I kind of guess she would be. I think all Air's characters were sidelined in this movie, but she's Harley, so she still gets her moment. So we get a lot of her with El Presidente. They're drinking, they're joking, they're fucking. This is the incident that Grace Randolph was saying was rape. By the way, it wasn't. This was consensual. She wanted to do this. As soon as she realised this guy was bad, she blows his brains out, remembering what the Joker was like. And she wanted to kill him before things got worse. And you kind of understand why. But it was a great moment for Harley Quinn, brilliantly played by Margot Robbie. Harley Quinn wasn't my favourite thing in this movie, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to lie and pretend that I loved every single thing. And I do have a little nitpick as well. So going back to Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag dying, it didn't seem that Harley was aware of this death. But at the end, after they beat Starro, they're standing there debating whether they should release the disc. And she says, Flag was my friend. And he goes, Flag was my friend too. Now they go into a typical MCU gag, changing the subject. This is typical. This is something I particularly don't like, but they did it anyway. But I just don't understand when Harley realised he was dead, unless it was radioed and she had a radio as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Maybe I missed that bit. I just can't remember. So it's a bit weird. And by the way, she should have known. From as soon as he was dead, she should have known. And there should have been an emotional response. She has a connection to Flag. I still think they should have had a little romantic connection there. I thought it would have been awesome. So I didn't like that. But again, it's just a nitpick. Idris Elba as Bloodsport is a standout, a fucking standout. You know, British actors are something special, aren't they? Because we all get trained in the UK theatrically, and it's very different to getting trained in America. Let's be honest about it. But Idris Elba, absolutely fantastic. Now, James Gunn describes his character as a toxic man at the beginning of the story. You know, Hollywood is obsessed with toxic men, but not obsessed with toxic women. That's interesting. They try and pretend there's no such thing as a negative toxic woman. That's what happens when you live in a bubble, by the way. But anyway, so he starts off admitting he's not a good father. I love the conversation with his daughter when she's arrested, and he pretty much saying, why did you get caught? And she's going, you're my father, you should be telling me not to be doing this stuff. And they're having this great piece of dialogue, this argument, and it's so good. Now we know Now, here's another nitpick, by the way. So, Bloodsport is in prison for putting Superman in the ICU because he shot him with a kryptonite bullet. I think it was very, very lazy not to go with that and discover who asked him to do this. Why did he do this? Why would someone just take the money and try and kill Superman? There must be someone behind this. Now, maybe we'll find more about that in Peacemaker. I'm sure we'll probably see Bloodsport again. Now, the dynamic between Bloodsport and, what's his name, Peacemaker, was absolutely fantastic. It was funny. That moment when they're going to rescue Flag, I mean, fucking hell, this is some sick, dry humour, isn't it? So they're killing all these people, right? They think they're just guards. And then they go into the tent and Flag's just laughing and joking with the leader of this movement. And basically, they realise that Flag's agreed to help this woman and her team, and then she realises that they've pretty much killed nearly all of her people, and the reaction to that is hilarious. As I say, this is dry humour. Now, I read an article, I think this morning, where WB actually went to James Gunn and said, is this actually a step too far? You actually had a shark tearing a human being in two, and you're worried about this? It's an R-rated movie, don't worry about it. Now, a lot of people spoke about basically the violence and the gore and the blood just being there for the sake of it. Of course it is. Of course it is. He wanted an R-rated movie to do this, but it works. And I like the whole thing with the fire, and he's got his words there on the next mission. First it says something, then it says rescue Harley. Absolutely brilliant. And I love the bit when Peacemaker is about to kill, what's her name? Ratcatcher 2, how can I forget her name? And then it goes 8 minutes earlier. That's so Quentin Tarantino, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And I've already spoken about Ratcatcher 2, but she's absolutely fantastic. She really is. She captured my heart, and I know she captured all of our hearts. And she certainly deserves a spin-off. Now, I don't know what you would do with her. That's the only thing. But again, I'm sure we will see these people pop up in Peacemaker, hopefully. It'll be interesting what kind of show that is, but we did see in the post-credit scene that they need him to save the fucking world. And so I don't know what's going on there. I have no idea, and I can't wait to find out. But as I say, this film takes its time to warm up. Once it does, it's absolutely off the scale. There's nothing wrong with the pacing, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's one of those movies that starts but warms up as it goes along. And I think all the great stories do that. And it really works because of that element. I think most of the gags do hit, by the way. I really do. I love the gags. The action is so visceral and so fantastic. But this is not a film about violence or fights or action. This is a film about characters. Make no mistake. All the other stuff I just said was great. But that's not the focus of the movie. This is about characters. And I was a bit concerned about Taika Waititi playing Ratcatcher 2's father, but when you see it on the screen, he delivers a fantastic performance. And I love the moral there. You know, rats are the most detested creatures in the world. If they have a purpose, then we all have. I mean, that's beautiful, isn't it? It really is. So this film still remains at number 5 in my all-time DCEU rankings. It won't move up. I don't think it's better than BVS or Zack Snyder's Justice League or the first Wonder Woman or Man of Steel. I don't. That's just my opinion. And I mean, your opinion could be different, and I respect that. But I think top 5 is fair enough. So yeah, it really is that. Look, there are so many moments we could talk about. Bloodsport lives to fight another day. Harley lives to fight another day. Oh, how can I forget? Fucking Polka Dot Man. And I love that they name dropped Star Labs, because that's where he was created. His mother wanted to make him and his siblings superheroes. And what a way to fucking die. I'm a fucking superhero! Splat. I mean, who knows if he survived or not? How powerful is Polka Dot Man? And I love the idea when he's his face is blowing up and you can see the polka dots. You know, I think he had a great arc, and credit to David Dastmalchian. He done great with the role, you know, and well written and directed by James Gunn. it's really great to have people like James Gunn writing and directing these offshoot movies. This wasn't connected really to anything, but Harley's there. This is a connection to the first film, whether you like it or not, even though they don't directly say it's a sequel, but it is a sequel at the end of the day. I do feel that you do confuse people when you keep on saying it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot. That's confusing, isn't it? What does that mean? Because to the mainstreamer, they're thinking, what the fuck? Because they're too afraid to admit it's part of the other movie, because the other movie, a lot of people didn't like it. Just say it's a fucking sequel. You know, you can get great sequels from bad movies. Not that I think the first Suicide Squad is a bad movie. I think I may be alone there, but I do really like the first film, and I loved James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I had so much fun watching this movie, and I mean, the way Bloodsport does Peacemaker is amazing with the bullets. I know I mentioned this the other day, but it's so fucking beautiful. And the way he's bleeding out, it's so tragic. You do feel sorry for him, even though he killed my good friend Rick Flag. But all in all, this movie is funny, serious, dramatic, emotional. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry. It's absolutely fantastic. This has been the Movies TV Mad Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. I will see you again in the next video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I will see you again soon. Until then, remember, Suicide Squad is a solid hit, is a great movie, and the DCEU goes from strength to strength.